Welcome, everyone, to our Coffee with Kendra, where we are going to talk about why your sales hires don't sell. And today I have with me my guest, Dave Kava, who is the owner of PeopleSharp. And so Dave will remember that we were both exhibiting at a conference called ChannelCon this summer, and our booths were right across from each other. We both work with companies who are hiring salespeople from slightly different perspectives, but we got into this great, lively conversation around why the heck is it that you can hire a salesperson and they are not successful? And that led me from his unique perspective to say, oh, Dave, you've got to come on our Coffee with Kendra as my guest. And so here I have Dave. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here today.
It's great to be here. We're going to have some fun.
We are absolutely going to have fun. And what we're going to do today is share with all of you what it is that goes on that causes you to hire somebody that you think is really successful, and then they get into your business and suddenly they're not selling the way that you had anticipated. What is it that goes wrong? And so we're going to talk about what it is that you need to have in place. What are the conditions that make it right for a salesperson to be successful, as well as what your hiring process needs to be. Now, Dave works exclusively with IT and most frequently with IT managed service providers, which is a segment that we do a lot of work with. However, all of what he is going to share applies regardless of what your industry is. So if you are watching this or you are listening and your business is not IT managed services, do not turn us off. This is an important message that will help you in how you can be more successful in your sales hiring and, quite frankly, after the hiring, because that's what we really care about. We want to be successful afterward. Okay. So, Dave, we're going to start right off with a poll. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. Let's see what people.
Okay, I want to hear from all of you which situation best describes where you are right now. You have sales reps, but performance is inconsistent. You've hired reps before and it didn't work. You yourself are still doing most of the selling, or you are planning to hire your first sales rep or your next sales rep. And so I have opened the poll. Take a moment and vote on where you are in your situation right now with sales. In the managed services world, what I see a lot is that the owner is still very involved in sales. Are you seeing the same thing, Dave?
Yeah, that is definitely the case until they hit a certain size, and sometimes it stays the case a lot longer than it really should.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Exactly. They hire thinking, I'm not going to have to be involved in sales anymore. I hired this phenomenal person. They're going to come in and I can step away, but they can't.
It's not unique to the MSP industry, but what you find is that MSP owners tend to know the technology. If they're sharp, they know the business.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean they know anything about sales. Doesn't mean they know anything about hiring. It's a danger of entrepreneurialism in general to think that because you've done really well at learning the thing that you're doing, baking pies, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and you've learned how to make money doing it, that all of a sudden you are capable of doing anything your business is going to need to do well. It always makes sense to get advice and sometimes bring in help.
Yes. And what I will share with business owners is they will always be their best salesperson only because they know their business inside and out. Not necessarily because they're very strong at selling, but because they're passionate and they understand their business. But they can't grow by being the only salesperson that they have. And that's where, yes, having outside assistance to help them figure out, how do I take the knowledge that I have about my business, which is what makes them successful, not their selling skills. It's their knowledge and passion about their business, and transition that to someone else and make a salesperson successful. That's a perspective I always look at.
Yeah, and it's not that easy a thing to do.
No. And here's what our poll tells us. Of the people who are listening right now, 40% have sales reps, but their performance is inconsistent. And 60% are planning to hire their first or next salesperson. Okay, so
you're in the right place.
They are in the right place, and we have a mix of groups. So there's a reality that owners don't often talk about. And most of them have experienced this when they're doing their hiring. There are a couple different things that you and I talked about, Dave, that owners are seeing happen. So one of the things we said is that they've hired a rep that they really believed in. They were passionate that this person is going to be successful. Or another one is that they've offered a great comp plan. So shouldn't the rep be successful that way? What are other realities that you think about that owners have in the back of their mind when they're going to hire, but they don't really voice when they're talking to you about wanting to hire?
I think it's almost more of what they don't have in their mind. I think there is a misconception that says, if I find someone who is a likable person, who's outgoing and has a history of selling things and being successful, that they're going to work out great. I mean, what else is there to look for, right? Like that is the idea that if I find the right kind of person, they'll succeed. And what else can I do? That's I think the greatest misconception is that it's all about just finding the right person.
Finding the right person. And you said something too that you're right, I hear a lot. And that is, if I just hire somebody who's outgoing, or I'm going to hire this person because they'll go and they'll do networking and they don't have any fear about that, and therefore they're going to be successful. And because often what's in their mind is that they are only looking for somebody who can hunt. And so they're only thinking about the very front end of the sales process.
Yep.
They're not talking about the whole sales process itself.
Correct.
And so here were some things that Dave and I talked about the reality that owners don't think about. And most owners have experienced all of this, and they end up selling again. So with that, it creates a lot of frustration. You all know that if you make a hiring mistake, it's expensive. And before we started, Dave, you were sharing the cost of a salesperson today.
Yeah, I mean, I know the MSP industry well. I studied the data. And an outside salesperson is the position with the highest turnover in MSPs. It's also one of the highest paid positions in an MSP. So the average nationally, base plus comp, in other words, all-in compensation, is about $115,000. If you spend $115,000 on a person and they are ineffective at their job to the point where you let them go, that is a massive mistake. And the smaller the business, the more it hurts. I mean, that is a significant knock at your profit. It's a knock.
It's a knock at your profit. It also directly impacts the goals that you have set for yourself. And if you are hiring that person as the owner, expecting that now you'll have time to focus in other strategic areas that will help the business grow, then it's a knock there as well. So
it's actually worse, because what happens a lot of the time is that the way the owner justifies that salary is by projecting that person's the revenue that they're going to bring in. That revenue never comes in, and all of a sudden, it is in some cases, a financial crisis for the company.
Exactly.
They're saying, okay, this is going to cost me $115,000 a year, but this person's going to bring in $750,000 in revenue, and instead it's $200,000. That's a pretty big gap there.
It's a huge gap, which is why it's so critical that when you are looking at hiring, you are hiring the right person and you have the right conditions in place for that person to be successful. And here's the deal. Most often we know that business owners think, oh, it was a person I hired. It was the rep who wasn't successful. And you and I have talked about how, okay, an owner will come and they will just try and hire again the same way, and they're going to hire the same rep, but they haven't addressed the surrounding situation around why that person wasn't successful. Because sometimes they haven't hired the wrong person.
No, probably the most common approach to sales and bringing in salespeople, first thing they try is what I call push them out of the nest and hope for the best. Learn our product, go find us some business, is what it amounts to. Maybe here's a list, here's a few cold leads, go show me what you got. And that is almost guaranteed to fail. It's going to fail the overwhelming majority of the time. And it's not necessarily the person that is the reason.
Mm-hmm. One of my frustrations when people hire is they will say the old-fashioned, here's the phone book, here's the Zoom list, go out to LinkedIn and do some research and figure out who you're going to call, so that there's no infrastructure in place for that rep, and they won't give them anything to start. That's a huge frustration that I have.
And the fact is, the way the owner has sold in the past is not that way.
Never. They never wanted to pick up the phone and call anyone. Everything they've done has been through referral. It's
been through relationships. Yep.
Yeah. So the other aspect, and you may hear this a lot, tell me if you do, is that they will approach sales hiring the same way that they may approach hiring any other member of their staff. Do you find that?
Sure. We tell people that you have to start with the question, would this person make a great long-term employee? Forget about what they know how to do, what the history is, what the certifications are. That's the first question. Are they? Patrick Lencioni said, hungry, humble, smart. We talk about something similar. We talk about work ethic, brains, and culture fit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies aren't looking at work ethic, brains, and culture fit, even for non-sales employees. Sometimes, even when they are looking at those things for non-sales employees, they give the sales employees a pass. They just say, well, they don't have to fit in. They don't have to be able to talk the talk when it comes to our product. We just need someone that can sell that. And that's a mistake.
It's a huge mistake, because your salesperson and your marketing are the first impression of your company to your prospects. And if it's clients, then they're working with clients who are already working with the rest of your company. And if there's a disconnect in their values, in their work ethic, in the culture overall, it's not representing your company the right way.
Yeah. And when you're in a professional services business, you're not talking about like the retail operation where people walk in, they want to buy a cell phone, and some kid sells them a cell phone. That is not what most companies do. It's all about developing relationships and mutual respect. And
Mhm.
if you look at it that way, you can't treat it like a transactional
No.
position. That the way they represent your company, beyond wearing a shirt, is really important. Whatever they sell, someone else is going to have to deliver on.
Yep. Whatever promises or commitments that they made, somebody has to deliver on. And again, they're representing your company. To me, in any professional service that they're selling, whether it's IT managed services or staffing, even in manufacturing, people want a strong relationship with that salesperson, and they want recommendations, consultative advice. So it's a different tier than that cell phone salesperson. And we shouldn't say bad things about cell phone salespeople any more than we should car salesmen, because there are some of those that are really great too.
Yeah, they are. I'm related to some of them. I'm just saying, like, that's not really what we're talking about here,
No,
Like,
because in those industries they expect higher turnover. But to your point, in this role, you want someone who has the potential to grow with your company. And if they're successful, your company is growing and they're creating the opportunity for themselves to grow.
what people need to understand is that from first point of contact with a prospect through the sale, through, say, the first, let's just say, 6 weeks of the engagement, usually determines the life of the customer, whether they're going to be good, bad, or gone. Anywhere from a raving fan referral source to somebody that leaves and badmouths you is usually determined right in the beginning, from first point of contact through getting them onboarded and getting through that first set of work, whatever it is, whether it's a legal issue or fixing technology. The whole idea is that if the client likes and trusts you, you've bought all kinds of goodwill that will get you through hard times and bumps in the relationship. If that goodwill and trust is not established from the beginning, it'll probably never be there. And at that point, you're in a transactional relationship, and as soon as that transactional relationship is no longer working for the other person, they're out of there.
Agreed. Meaning that if the transactional relationship's not working for a client, then they're out of there. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So sales hiring is different than how you are hiring other roles. You still, for everybody, need to be looking for the cultural fit that Dave was talking about. Additionally, your sales performance, your reps performance, depends on the clarity of the role, the structure of the role, the structure that you're providing, the support that you are providing to that role. A lot of people think you don't have to, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. The accountability, because you have to hold salespeople accountable, and their consistency. So when you are hiring, all of that has to be in your mind.
It's really a different paradigm, because you have to think of it differently than I'm hiring a person that's going to go do a thing. You have to think of it in terms of I'm building a machine, and I need to find the person that fits well in this machine and will operate things correctly. And if the machine doesn't exist and you're just hiring a person, you're usually setting them up for failure.
You're building your revenue generating engine.
Yeah.
And they're a core cog in your engine.
Right.
What I like about this slide, it talks about if you've done all these different things, so you've hired more than one rep, you've seen the same results every time, you've improved compensation, you've changed your tactics of what you're doing for selling, you have still struggled, it's not bad luck. There's a pattern that you have to step back and look at. Why is this happening? right? We don't want to keep doing that same thing over and over and
The
expect
definition of insanity.
result.
Yeah.
And here we already talked about the hidden cost of hiring too soon. Man, I'm not going to repeat that, but it's critical. So we have to fix it. And when Dave and I talked, he talked about the scaffolding that sales requires. So Dave, share with everyone what you told me when you said somebody says to you, hey, do you help hire salespeople too?
Yeah. I tell people I'm not much of a salesperson myself because I think I talk myself out of more recruiting opportunities when it comes to salespeople than I talk myself into. Because the first thing I say to them is, we do, but the first thing we do is push back every single time, and my standard line is, show me your plan to make this person successful, and then I'll find you the right person. Because if you don't have a good plan to make this person successful, they're going to fail. You're going to say that person stunk and you're going to blame me. And I'm not putting myself in that situation. And usually that's enough for them to go, whoa,
and they haven't thought about it. So even if you have a salesperson and that salesperson isn't being successful, the same plan applies. So do you have a clear solution offering that you can talk about in that good old-fashioned elevator? Can you truly describe what it is that you do and your solutions easily? Do you have a defined ideal client profile that you can hand them that says, here's what makes a good prospect, so that they know who's qualified and who's not? Is there account ownership clarity? Do they know who they're targeting and who they aren't, or is somebody else going to come in to those same accounts? Is there marketing support? Or are we going to do what we talked about just a few minutes ago about requiring them to go out and find their leads and they're starting with nothing? Or is your company not well known? And sales management, are you doing sales management? Those are the core elements, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this because without them, Dave, they can't be successful.
Correct. Yeah, I'll wait for a slide or two, but I have another stat for you. That's really what I found fascinating.
Okay. So the ideal client profile. For a long time, we've all talked about target markets. Who's your target market? Right? And MSPs, a lot of them have professional services as a target market. Healthcare is another big target market. What other target markets do you hear, Dave?
Well, my MSP was in hedge funds and private equity. That's a great market, yep. But you have to go all in if you're going to succeed there.
Right. It's a derivative of financial services.
Yes.
Right. Because that's another market that we'll see people go after.
And there's legal, there's government, there's nonprofit, there's all kinds of vertical focuses there.
But they're so broad. Not that we don't want that, because you do, because you can build expertise in a target market. And we just named industries. Those of you who are listening may have a cross-industry market, but it's a slice across.
Correct. However,
the ideal client profile clearly defines more than just what the industry is. So you can see across the top of the slide, yes, it's the industry focus. It's the company size. What's your real sweet spot? Like when I talk about KLA Group, we work with B2B companies between $1 million in annual revenue and $85 million in annual revenue. And people will say, wow, that's a pretty big number. It is and it isn't. When you consider that we're working with the sales and the marketing organization, and if their salespeople have anywhere between a $1 and $3 million annual target, because usually it's even higher than $1 million, that's not a whole lot of salespeople. So we're working with those companies who had just a few salespeople or no salespeople. That's how granular you want to get with your ICP. And you may go even more granular. Yesterday, I was talking with an MSP, and he said their target market is companies between 50 and 100 end users. That's really specific in the company size.
Yep.
Okay. So you want your ideal customer profile to be very defined. Do you ever have to explain how that helps a salesperson, Dave, when you talk about it?
Well, I mean, I think the easiest way to talk about it is in terms of marketing. Like, if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one, right?
Yep.
Like I call it marketing to the ocean or marketing to the wind. Like if you call somebody, if you just say, hey, anybody, like nobody's going to turn around. Like you got to know the person's name, right? Like that's the idea, that you cannot market to everybody. You have to narrow it down so that you know whose name to call. And you want your company to be known as the go-to company, the best at something or other, and it doesn't have to be a vertical focus, but it's one of the easiest ones to choose. I'm from the MSP world. If you say that is the absolute best MSP you can get for law firms that are under 25 people,
right?
You're going to have a tremendous advantage over the MSP that comes in and says, well, we serve all kinds of different clients, different sizes, different verticals. No, we don't really know your line of business product that well, but we can learn it. Like the company that comes in knows exactly who they are, and they want you light years ahead of their competitors when it comes to gaining that business. And then there's all kinds of operational efficiencies that they can gain because they don't have to know a little about everything. They can know a lot about one thing.
It helps on the sales side because the salesperson can better qualify immediately, as well as on the marketing side. Marketing can be very specific to who they're talking to. And just because AEO is something we've been talking a lot about on the marketing side, you can get very specific with all of your content to appeal to the AI tools who are out scrubbing and looking for answers. Yep. So to me, it's never become more important to have that ICP. So,
yeah.
All right, let's talk about technical versus sales roles. Because oftentimes owners will do one of two things. They'll say, we've got this great technical person. I think they can also do selling. So I'm going to make our VCIO a account manager, or I have a great consultant. We're just going to have them sell also. But there's a huge difference between what you want somebody who is in what I call a technical role, whether you're truly in information technology or not, and a sales role.
Absolutely. And, as soon as I hear somebody say something like that, it's just screaming operational immaturity to me.
Yeah.
There's so many different problems with it. The implication there is that, well, as opportunities come along and we need someone to close them, this person can go do it. There's no way that somebody who has half of a completely different job is going to be focused on the mechanics of actually going out and hunting and being successful. In the best case scenario, you're going to get somebody who may be able to close a few, very warm leads here and there as they pop up. We're not talking about building that machine and having it function successfully. There's no way.
No. Where I look at your technical people, whether they are true technology or they are consultants, the place to engage them in the sales process is in the middle to support what a salesperson is doing. instead of trying to have them do the selling as well. So bring them in, use their expertise, but don't make them your salesperson. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, no, like I said, most of the time it just won't work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get lucky and have just the right person and it does work to some extent, it may be, phase one of, and you're trying to get to phase 6, because that is just not, it's not a sustainable, repeatable way of doing things. You can't get 5 of those people and have them function like a team. It's not going to work.
No, but one thing I want to talk about just for a couple of minutes and get, have you share as well. We will often see companies that aren't at that higher level operational maturity will start with their technical expert. So think subject matter expert, those of you that are listening, as a sales role. So account management lives with them instead of with a salesperson. They won't make them a hunter, because usually that person will step up and say, I don't want to prospect.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go do networking. That's not what I signed up for. But they'll start with account management residing with whoever that subject matter expert is, that technical expert. And I think it holds companies back because it's not their primary role.
Very dangerous. I mean, at that point, you've got so many eggs in the same basket. It's a high percentage of those situations where that person is in a very good position to hold the company hostage. If you have one of the strongest technical people in your company, who's also the primary client relationship with your most important accounts, who's also the only one that knows how to do a lot of the work in those accounts, I wish I could say it was uncommon, but often that person becomes a real liability to the company, and the situation gets pretty toxic. It usually happens in smaller companies, and they just feel like, we'd love to get rid of this person, but our whole business would fall apart, and they're terrified to do it. You don't want to get there.
And that's a very good point about the risk to your company, because essentially you've put all of your faith in just one person, and you're not utilizing the breadth of your whole organization, even if it's a small team. As
your company matures, and as much as we do recruiting, that's what my company does. But I really firmly believe that what we're really doing is helping companies scale, right? Mm-hmm. And as a company scales and matures, the idea is to rely less on individual rock stars and more on process. And if you're doubling down on a single point of failure in your business, even if it's a wonderful person, that's a bad strategy, and it goes against maturity. Mm-hmm. Maturing as a business means starting to alleviate those single point of failure situations, starting to create a situation where things are dependent on processes and teams instead of dependent on superheroes.
Agreed.
You don't say we just need our superhero to do more, or we need a different superhero because we don't like this superhero anymore. That's not a good way to.
Well, you start to outgrow your superhero, but we digress.
We do, but that's a good digression.
If you are in that situation, if you're listening and you're in that situation where you have your subject matter expert or your technical expert as your account manager, just be aware of what the risks are. And part of your growth plan should be that you are going to have an account manager whose focus is sales. And if I come back, they are the relationship owner, and their goal is expanding that account. Whereas the subject matter expert's goal is around delivering on whatever it is that you are delivering to that client. So they're very different roles. Okay, I bet this is.
Can I tell you a curveball, because I didn't get my cool data point in before we got past the slide.
Wait, tell us, what's your cool data point?
This is something that I was shocked when I was going through the service leadership compensation report from last year. The lowest quartile MSPs, that is the least profitable MSPs, spend a lot more on sales and marketing as a percentage of overall expense, significantly. And reading between the lines, it's the companies that don't have an ideal client profile, don't have a standardized package, and they're really looking to sell anything to anyone, and they've got a bunch of people running around and doing it, and they're not getting a lot of viral sales because they've established a reputation in a specific thing, and it really just reeks of desperation.
They don't have
by headcount and by salary, they're spending almost double what the best companies are.
Well, and they don't have the structure in place. Again, bringing up the revenue generating engine, they don't have the sales structure that we're talking about, like you said, and they don't have the marketing structure.
Elbow grease.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's uncomfortable and a lot of effort on their part because they're doing so many different things for different companies, but not much of it is profitable.
Chase stuff until you catch something. That's what it comes down to.
Right. And that's not what you want your salesperson doing. But if you don't have your structure in place, that's what they will be doing for as long as they're with you. So marketing and momentum. And I just had this conversation this morning with one of our clients. You want your marketing to be in support of what your sales goals are. And when I say that, you want your marketing to be out creating visibility so that when sales reaches out, there aren't as many of a who are you? What do you do? I've never heard of you conversations.
I've got one Post-it note sitting by my desk here, and I've had it there for 2 years. It just says marketing is about familiarity.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of you. I know who you are. I've heard good things. Just think about it. Someone walks up to your door and you know them already. You're a lot more likely to sit there and talk to them or invite them in than if some stranger walks up to your door and you're thinking, who the heck is this person?
Oh, you are a solicitor.
Yeah.
Yes. And marketing is about, I call it the visibility and findability, because they should be doing things so that you can be found and made more visible. But without it, it's requiring so much work from your salesperson. And the more work they have to do because you don't have visibility, the longer it's going to take until they have any new opportunities in the pipeline. And then guess what? They get fired before they can even be successful because they're spending all their time doing what you really want marketing to have done.
Absolutely.
I think it was your phrase that they should have air cover for outreach.
I'd like to take credit. I don't think it was, but that's a good one.
I like that. I thought it came out of the conversation that you and I had. But really, marketing is there to support sales, and not just at the beginning of the sales process, but as the sales process is progressing. Do you have case studies that you need? Do you have the data that you need? Because marketing is the one that supplies the data. Do you have the campaigns that are going on? Do you have the onboarding materials? All that comes from marketing, not just are they driving campaigns to build awareness for your company.
Yeah, you think about in some ways it should just be so obvious. If you've seen a commercial for a Hershey's chocolate bar on TV and you've never seen a Hershey's chocolate bar before, you're from Mars, you walk into the store and there's a Hershey's chocolate bar, you're going to be a heck of a lot more likely to grab that Hershey's chocolate bar than if you just walked in the store and saw this thing on the shelf, right? I mean, it's really basic human nature that familiarity warms people up. It softens them to a message.
Yes. So marketing is important. Oh, but equally important is sales management. This is not optional. And
No.
so often business owners haven't thought about this.
And with no education in sales, a lot of people think that sales management is giving someone a quota and then holding them accountable to the quota. And sales management is really, that is 10% of it, maybe. I mean, really, it is sales management comes down to saying, what are the things this person should be doing every day to achieve the result we want them to achieve? And how are we tracking them and holding them accountable to doing those things? The assumption.
And how are we helping them be successful?
Absolutely. I mean, I almost feel like that should go without saying, because why would you bring someone into your business and not want them to succeed and not help them get there? But I guess that does need to be said, because it happens all the time.
So many people think when you're hiring a salesperson, they are internally motivated to be successful because you've given them a quota and they want to make that higher commission that they could have. And so therefore you should be able to point them in the right direction and they will go sell. But now I have a stat. 40% of your time should be coaching a sales manager or coaching a salesperson. If you have a sales manager, that's the number that they're supposed to spend. A business owner can't spend 40%, but that tells you how critical the coaching aspect is to successful sales.
So my takeaway from that statement is that it's time to call BS whenever an owner says, I'm going to manage them. Because the correct response to that statement would be, unless it's all you're doing, I don't believe you. No, you're not.
So here's my story for everybody, for you. We do outsource sales management for clients until they get to the size where it makes sense for them to have a sales manager. One of our clients this past year went through a significant PR nightmare, where it had the potential to ruin their business. We were doing their sales management and still are. They ended the year meeting their original goal in spite of the PR nightmare that they went through. And it's because we were there motivating the sales rep, helping them with how to navigate all of the concerns that were going to happen, and helping them to see what was the real value that they were providing to the people who were still clients. That is huge. And that's the sales manager's role. Yeah, pretty interesting.
It is, again, just going to the idea of maturing companies. It's really hard to be good at anything when you're doing 4 or 5 different jobs.
Yes.
And it's not uncommon in a small business for someone to be doing 4 or 5 different jobs. And that's normal when you're 5 people or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of companies, it just takes them way too long to grow out of that mindset. Someone has 3 different roles, and then you wonder why they're not performing well in any of them. Like you have to grow out of that. I deal with that a lot as a recruiter when they say, I really like somebody who can be an account manager. I want to hire an account manager, but they have to be able to do project management too.
Or I want to hire a sales rep. They're going to be a hunter, and I'm going to have them do our social media too.
Yeah. Well, that is,
and that's very common.
Another stat, the hybrid salespeople, inside and outside, are even more expensive than outside salespeople, and they're also the least effective.
Absolutely.
And in my industry, the average client account manager makes about $75,000. So $75,000 for a client account manager inside sales, 115 for outside sales, 120 for hybrid, and the hybrids are the least successful of any of the roles. So,
because they don't have the time to do the role well.
All the math says do the marketing and the client account management first, do the outside salesperson last. If the owner is doing all those things to start, the outside sales role is the last thing you shed, because the other things that you're shedding are starting to create that scaffolding for the
Exactly.
salesperson.
Exactly. And we're at the right place to say you're ready to hire when you have that scaffolding in place. And now the rep steps in and you've got the appointment setting working. You've got the marketing working. You can tell them, here's who our ideal client is. And they can start running and close sales faster because of all that.
Selling what they ought to be selling. That it's not just the ideal client; it's having your product standardized as well. It's very, very important.
Agreed. So, what? We're both clicking. Let's talk about the first step then. We've already said that you should hire for character. If we talk about what you need to do in your hiring process, step one is that we are looking for the right character, the right person who fits in, which is what you were sharing earlier.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about core values these days, and I don't want to, that's another webcast. But I'll just say this, that your salesperson should not get a pass when it comes to being a culture fit. They need to represent your company well. They need to fit in with the rest of the team. The sales to service handoff in a professional service business is one of the danger points, right? Like you need everybody to function as a team. And if you got the wrong person in there and they're just motivated to cash check and lob a grenade over their shoulder, it's not going to work out long term. You want somebody who is going to fit in with the organization. And that last one, desire to belong, is very important. You want to see someone who's going to be rowing along with everyone else in the company, know their role in it, and say that, I want my success tied to this company's success. I want the whole thing to work, not just my check clearing.
Yes, they are collaborating with everyone, and they are part of the full team, bringing all their ideas. So hire for character first. Boy, I'm a strong believer in assessing. We have a case study that's in its final stages that outlines hiring we just did and how many candidates we assessed in the beginning and how many people made it through to the first, second, and third interview. And we assessed over 100 people to get to a handful of candidates. I mean, in the end, we interviewed like 5 candidates from all of those and got down to the one who has had a first sale in under 50 days.
That's awesome. The most mature MSPs out there, they know that, okay, we needed a level 2 engineer. In order to do that, we need to place this kind of ad in these places. When we do that, we're going to get 300 resumes. We know that we're gonna push aside 30 of them as ones we're interested in. We're going to send out some aptitude assessments that half of them are going to answer. We're going to do phone screens after that. It's going to whittle it down to 5 candidates. We're going to interview 2 and hire 1. And they know that math, And the overwhelming majority of the time, it's right. And they know if they get the top of the funnel right, that the bottom of the funnel will work out. I mean, like, it's that scientific in the best companies.
And it is in
The
sales.
process you just described is one that they've done over and over again, and they know exactly how it's going to go the overwhelming majority of the time.
It works exactly the same way in sales, and you can see how that funnel works, and the assessing for the sales traits in addition to the character tells you, are we getting somebody who has the potential to be successful if we have that scaffolding in place once they come on board?
Yep.
So know your numbers is important. And that's why we're publishing the case study, because it will show people metrics that they can use to measure against for themselves based on what we've experienced.
Yeah. And, we talk about getting the seat right and getting the person right. And that, I think that that's a really simplified way of what we've been talking about the whole time, because all this stuff is getting the seat right.
Yes.
That what are you trying to build? How will your sales engine actually function?
Mm-hmm.
That can't get the person right till you get the seat right. And most companies work on the person before they work on the seat, and then they wonder why the person didn't work out.
Right. And the seat is dependent on what's the process that we're going to use to sell, which also directly relates to who are we selling to? How do they have to be sold to for them to want what our solution is? So having all of that then tells you what seats do we need in our revenue generating engine, and what's the seat we need right now, because it could be they need appointment setting. It could be they need account management. They could need hunting. They could need account or outside selling, which could be a combination of both hunting and existing clients.
The good news is that if you look at all the, let's call them prerequisites for setting up an outside salesperson for success, they're not mysterious. They're not even hard to accomplish. You just have to know what they are, and you have to do them.
You have to do it. And then you have to adhere to it. And we're not going there, but you have to have a system where you're tracking it all. Right? You have to have a good CRM that it's in. But most people don't want to do the work that puts the structure in place. And then once they've got the rep, they don't want to have to do the management of that rep. They just want that rep to be successful on their own.
And, I guess, boy, it does sound like a lot. And I could see the temptation to try and take the shortcut. And I guess part of what we're doing here today is holding up big warning signs that say do so at your own peril, because it may cost you a lot of money and frustration and a wasted year or two.
Don't hire, because to the title of this webinar, that's why they're failing. This is why your sales reps, your good sales rep that you hire, fails. Don't do it until you've done that work, because it will all end up coming back on whoever was doing the selling before. Yep. It won't be successful. You're not ready.
And there'll be a lot of wasted time and money and frustration in between.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So our third step in the hiring is that you're looking for that long-term fit, that person that fits within the company, and they're not here just for a year. And in your mind, you're not just hiring them for a year. You're looking for someone who can grow with your company, not just grow your company.
This is a great slide. I kind of love it, because when you look at candidates, this is a terrific litmus test to apply. And will there be times where you judge somebody incorrectly? Yeah, there might be, but the much bigger problem is that most companies that are doing the hiring don't even consider these things in any kind of significant way.
They're not, because they're hiring just for the seat. They're not thinking broader. And frankly, you should be hiring for long-term fit with any role.
Yep.
So I like this one. The shift to make Stop asking, why can't we find a good sales rep, and start asking, what would a sales rep need here in our business to succeed? And do we have those things in place?
I love it.
That's the shift that you're going to make. So I want you to connect with Dave out on LinkedIn, because as you heard, he's got great ideas. Dave and I think very similarly about what is critical in your hiring, that it's not just the person that you're hiring, but it's having that whole infrastructure in place in your business so that they can be successful, and having your plan for how you're going to help make them even more successful after they are on board. So Dave, do you want to take a moment and say anything about PeopleSharp before we go to questions and I tell everybody where they can get a copy of the slides and an assessment?
Sure. Yeah, we do recruiting in the MSP channel, primarily for MSPs. We do a couple of channel businesses. We've got a pretty different model. Maybe you can tell from this hour, like, I wouldn't be interested in doing transactional business. We're not traditional headhunters. We focus more like an outsourced internal recruiting department. And the whole reason I started doing this was after I sold my MSP, I thought, what did we get really good at that could really help some other people? And it really came down to that. I think we service a lot of the same kinds of clients, Kendra. And the fact is that if people don't recognize how to build a team and embrace the concept of mentoring and bringing out the potential in people and structuring teams for scalability, they're just going to get stuck. They're going to get frustrated. Yep. At some point, find the perfect person out on the open market who's been trained by somebody else and pay top dollar for them. Like, even if you are willing to pay the extra money, those people just aren't out there very much. Like, you have to embrace the idea that my team and my individual people on my team, it's my company's job to build those things. You know, it's not you can't build a great team on nothing but free agents. And that's really what a lot of people do.
What they try to do. Exactly. Yeah, we are similar in how we work with clients, which is what just makes it a great opportunity for us to share together.
And I would just say really quickly, like, I'll talk to anybody. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can chat. And I am not much of a salesperson. I am a teacher, and I'd love to hear about your business and see if there's a way we might be able to help you out or just get to be friends. That's how I roll.
So connect with Dave on LinkedIn. Also connect with me if we are not connected. So we have the slides. There was a lot we covered there, and it shows you the process. Michael asked what was step 2 in the hiring, and that is assess sales traits, Michael. Schedule, if you would like to talk, if you're unsure whether you are really ready for hiring and you want to talk it through, schedule a 20 to 30 minute meeting. It's a working session, and we'll talk through that with you, just like Dave would talk with you. And we'll talk about what it is that you need in place. We can help you with the scaffolding as well as the hiring. So if you're missing elements, we can coach you through it, and in places we can develop for you or do for you. Download the annual sales plan. It is time to put your sales plan in place. You need that in place before you go and you hire. We just updated it, added prompts for AI to it. It is pretty darn nifty is what I'm going to say, because you can use AI to help you complete it, and it'll make it go much faster. And then you'll have the plan that you want to operate against, and that becomes a tool for your salesperson. You can also have a salesperson complete it and present it back to you. And we have the slides available to you. So use that QR code or the link And Bill has put the link in the chat as well for you. So go ahead and download that. Dave, I want to thank you for being a guest today with us. It has been just a great pleasure to have you. Parting words that what are parting words that you would share?
Oh,
on the spot.
Business is all about relationships, and learn everything you can the easy way. Stay humble. Anything you can learn from somebody else's mistakes, learn it, because otherwise you're going to make them yourself, and that's a lot harder.
And I would add that we shared the mistakes that can be made that will cause your salesperson to hire. Learn from those mistakes rather than learn them the expensive way of hiring when you aren't ready to hire or hiring the wrong way. Thank you, everyone. Our next Coffee with Kendra, I didn't show our save the date. Our next Coffee with Kendra is on February 18th, and we are going to talk about why you aren't getting leads the AEO shift. So we're going to talk about what's going on with AEO and what you need to do about that. So put that date on your calendar, February 18th, 1 o'clock Eastern, and we'll be sending more information out about it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Dave.
My pleasure.